I'm Pam Cooper, co-founder of Boosterville, and I'm here to tell you that school fundraising stinks. 60 years ago, my grandma was a teacher whose students sold magazine subscriptions to buy library books. 30 years ago, my mom's marching band kids were pushing cheese and sausage to raise money to appear in the Rose Bowl parade. 10 years ago, it was me, with wrapping paper and cookie dough for classroom supplies. I know school fundraising. It's a broken industry, but Boosterville fixes it. Your school gets the money you need, but so do the local businesses within your community. Boost your school while you boost your local businesses. Buy local, boost local. Choose Boosterville.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so on TV, you guys may know me as a Mythbuster, but in the reality show, which is actually my life, I am the mother of a little precocious preschooler named Stella Ruby. Now, as the mom of a child that's about to go into school, I am clearly interested in the fact that bullying is going to be part of her life, something that she's definitely going to have to deal with. And I've done a lot of exploring, looking for answers around bullying, and there seems to be a lot of myths surrounding this issue. So I'd like to invite here Brent, the national expert and the school counselor at Midway Elementary School in Utah, to help me sort through some of these myths and set the record straight on what's true and what's false. So let's get to it.
Okay, sounds good, Carrie.
Okay, so first off, a lot of people say bullying is just a rite of passage. It's just drama, something that parents overreact to and that kids should just get over. Is that a myth?
Carrie, that is a myth. I hear people say all the time, kids will be kids, they're going to grow out of it. Bullying is not drama, it's serious. We define it as any unwanted aggressive behavior which causes physical, social, or emotional harm. It tends to be repetitive, and it also tends to be intentional. Also, bullying many times is about an imbalance of power, whether it's real or perceived. Bullying type behaviors would include things like unwanted teasing, name-calling, gossip and rumors, leaving someone out intentionally even is a form of bullying, relational aggression. It's serious, Carrie, and it affects both bullies and the victims.
Okay, so that's another misconception I think people have, is that the victim's the only one that's affected by bullying. Is that true?
Well, it is true that the victims of bullying tend to be depressed, lonely, anxious, feel unwell, and sometimes think about suicide. And we know through research that those kinds of issues can go well into adulthood. However, it is a myth that the targets of bullying are the only ones that are affected. Actually, bullies themselves, we find through research, tend to have issues with violent and risky behaviors, and also tend to have problems forming positive relations with their peers throughout their entire life. Here's another misconception too. No child is a bully. We try not to call, people bullies. Any child or adult, for that matter, can exhibit bullying behaviors. We want to believe that they can change, as Vice President Biden talked about, and we never know what's the underlying issues are. We also find that there are many factors that, cause people to bully others. And so, we often find that these children need help and support to overcome these underlying issues. And we also know it's not just bullies and victims that are affected, but we know that bystanders, those that witness bullying on a regular basis, we also know that they tend to skip or miss more school. We also know that they tend to use alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs more frequently. And these students also have increased mental health issues. When bullying is pervasive in schools, it creates a negative, toxic environment where students can feel unsafe and also feel disconnected. Negative school climates are also associated with lower test scores and poorer academic achievement. We know that bullying thrives in schools that tolerate this behavior.
So would zero tolerance, complete zero tolerance policy, what do you think of that? Would that be something that would help?
You hear about that, zero tolerance policies. That is also a myth, Carrie. Zero tolerance policies are in fact ineffective. And the reason why is these approaches are not recommended is because they're unrealistic and disruptive, possibly due to the number of students that might be involved in these kinds of issues. These approaches also isolate children and take them away from where we have much needed intervention. Also, students who are expelled or suspended from school a lot of times are sent in unsupervised situations, and that's not very beneficial to them either. We also, know that severe punishment in these zero tolerance policies, ideas, may actually deter reporting from bystanders because they view the consequences as being too harsh.
Okay, so I've heard in some schools they try group therapy, anger management, peer mediation. What do you think of that as a solution?
Yeah, they all sound great. I want to start out by saying, first of all, I think all youth and students, and even adults for that matter, can benefit from conflict resolution and learning those things. We all need to learn how to solve our problems peacefully. But when we use strategies where we bring peers face to face and peer mediation, conflict resolution, those strategies imply that both parties bear some responsibility for the problem, and they often re-victimize the victim by somehow kind of assuming that it's somehow their fault. And this is the one that kind of leads to another myth that drives me crazy. I'll hear people say some victims actually deserve to be bullied. No human being deserves to be treated that way. We all deserve to be treated with respect. And so, because of that, we know that bullying is about an imbalance of power, and bullies are looking for easy prey. A lot of times they'll find students and youth who have fewer friends, less social support, maybe have learning and other disabilities that make it difficult for them to defend themselves, so they become easy targets. Why would we want to go put somebody in a face-to-face confrontation with somebody who torments them? Because all that does is tend to validate that imbalance of power.
Now, I've also heard that bullying leads to suicide, and I've even heard the term bullicide becoming an epidemic.
Yeah, you hear that, and that's actually another misperception that's out there. The media often links bullying to suicide. What we know with this is that a lot of experts feel that the term bullycide overstates and oversimplifies the relationship between bullying and suicide. It suggests that suicide is caused by one single factor. Although kids that are bullied are at risk for suicide, it's rarely the sole cause of suicide. Many youth who are bullied do not have suicidal thoughts or behaviors. There are so many factors that can contribute to suicide risk, including depression, substance abuse, other mental health issues, problems at home, past history of trauma. So we know that these risks can be further increased when these children do not feel support from school, from their peers, from their parents, and bullying can make an unsupportive situation even worse.
Okay, so what I'm hearing here, though, is that there is no surefire way to stop bullying, but clearly all of us are here because it's an issue that affects us, something that we all want to get involved in. I mean, we've got student leaders, school leaders, we're all here to find out how to stop it. So what do we do?
Oh, that's a great question. Carrie, I think there's a lot we can do to reduce bullying behaviors. Bullying is a social phenomenon, and we need to make sure we address those norms that perpetuate it. I also kind of believe that this is something that I've learned and read. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has found through research that when there's a school-wide or a community-wide commitment, and what we're talking about is kind of what we're doing tonight, is bringing parents and students and educational leaders, community members here. When we work together with a school-wide commitment, we can reduce bullying behaviors by up to 50%. I believe that any problem that we can change by up to 50% is worth pursuing. It's my belief that we need to change the entire school culture and climate in a very systemic kind of way. And we need to do this by educating staff, educating students. We need to make sure that we give students the skills that they need to be able to do the things that we're asking them to do. Bullying and all the factors that contribute to it are very vast, and so we need to cast a wide net of intervention. So I really propose a comprehensive approach, because when we have a comprehensive approach, we'll impact enough of those critical factors to really make a difference. And that's why, Carrie, this meeting tonight is so great, having all these people here so we can talk about comprehensive ideas to take back to our schools and our communities and implement those in programs and activities and policy change or whatever. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm really excited to see so many people do want to get involved, because clearly what needs to happen is we need to be the change agents. I mean, we've got everyone here who are leaders in their community, and definitely this is where it's going to start.
It is. Now, Carrie, that statement is a fact.
Well, let's get to it. So I think this is a good place to start. Thank you so much.
High fives. Good job.
I think it's a great place to start. Carrie and Brett, thank you for busting so many myths for us tonight. We certainly have learned a lot from you, and we would be honored if you would remain and participate in the question and answer portion of our program. And now, before we move into the next portion, it is my great honor to introduce to you a great friend of PTA, and that would be Arne Duncan, U.S. Secretary of Education. The Secretary has long said that everyone has a role to play in preventing and responding to bullying. Tonight, he will share with us why he has made bullying a top priority and ways his office is addressing the issue. Please join me in welcoming Secretary of Education Arne Duncan to the National PTA Youth Leadership Summit. Mr. Secretary.
Well, thank you so much, Betsy. Thanks to all of you for coming out. And before I begin, please give a huge round of applause for Betsy Landers. It's been a great 2 years of leadership. PTA has been a fantastic partner to us. We look forward to that partnership growing once you're gone, but you've done a fantastic job. Thank you. I just want to say a couple things, and we'll get to the panel. First of all, thanks to all of you for taking the time to come out. But my simple goal for kids across the country is that all of our students have a chance to fulfill their tremendous academic potential. But to do that, we have to make sure the building blocks are in place. Our children have to be fed. If they're hungry, it's hard to learn. Our children's social and emotional needs have to be met. And if children are going to school scared, they're living in fear, it's hard to concentrate on advanced physics or AP biology. And so if we don't get these building blocks right, we're frankly kidding ourselves. Our students will never do what they're possible of doing. So it's incumbent upon all of us, teachers, principals, students themselves, parents. And I really come to you more as a parent than anything else. I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son back home. We have to do everything we can to make sure they're growing up in a climate free of fear, free of violence. To the adults out there, to the parents, and obviously this is the PTA, we have to know what our children are doing. We have to know what's going on, not just in class, but at recess, at lunchtime, after school, on the weekends. We have to know what they're texting. We have to know what they're emailing. And one of the most difficult things I've had to do is to meet with parents who have lost their children due to suicide. And it's amazing to me and tragic how many of those parents who've lost their children, those children, many of them were not physically bullied. It was cyberbullying. They literally weren't touched, but the psychological damage was so great that they chose to take their life rather than go back to school the next day. And so we have to be vigilant. We have to be on top of it. We have to be in constant communication with our children, with our children's teachers, with the school. I've seen just in my own children's school, sometimes there's an incident and parents will say, my child couldn't have done that. It's impossible. Well, it actually did happen. And if we're not willing to sort of admit that, we as parents are part of the problem. To all the students here, I just want to thank you so much for coming out. We as adults have to step up and do more. But if a child is struggling, who knows about it first, a peer or an adult? It's always a peer. It's always a friend. And students themselves can do so much to create what I call a climate of positive peer pressure, where you're looking out for each other, where you're not letting anything fall through the cracks, where you're building a culture of tolerance and acceptance and making sure you're looking out for one another. And I'm in hundreds and hundreds of schools each year, and I can walk into school and literally in about 2 minutes get a really clear sense of the climate, whether students feel safe, whether they're free, whether they're relaxed, or whether there's a sense of fear and anxiety and tension. And you can almost feel it. It's almost tangible. And so we need all of you to not let the kids on the margins be picked on, not to have the cool kids putting down the other kids, but regardless of what your background is or where you come from, find a way to find some middle ground and common ground. And students can do that and have a profound impact on cultures in schools. And then the final thing, and I'd ask the students to challenge us as adults, we have to worry about bullying, we have to worry about cyberbullying, we have to create positive climates in schools, but we also have to, I think, as a society, take on this issue of gun violence. And whether it's Newtown, Connecticut this year, whether it's Aurora, Colorado, whether it's in Arizona, whether it's my home and back home in Chicago, we have far too many children who are losing their lives due to gun violence. And we can have an honest public policy debate how to get there, but for me, they're just two very simple goals. We need a lot fewer children being killed, and we need a lot fewer children living in fear. And if we can agree on those principles, and I think and hope and pray that we can, then we as adults have to come together to do something different. The Vice President, who you heard from earlier, he and I have spent a huge amount of time with the families, with the parents, with the teachers, with the community in Newtown, Connecticut. And no family, no parent, no community should ever have to go through what they've gone through. When I led the Chicago Public Schools for 7.5 years, on average, we lost a child every 2 weeks due to gun violence. It was a staggering rate of loss. And the vast majority of those students were not gangbangers. It was young people like a young girl named Starkeisha Reed, who was killed at 7:30 in the morning on a school day in her living room by an AK-47 from 100 yards away. There was a young man named Blair Holt, who was on the bus going home from school at 2:30 in the afternoon, shot, used his body to protect his friends. His mother worked for the fire department. His father actually worked in the gang crimes unit. And we have communities, again, rich, poor, black, white, Latino, doesn't matter, where far too many of our children are growing up in fear. We have an amazing... For all the challenges, we have an amazing chance to make things better. And whether you're 10, whether you're 20, whether you're 50, all of us can work together. We can all do things in our schools. We can all do things in our communities. And ultimately, I could care less than politics, Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter to me. We all have to work together. We need to make sure that elected officials are doing the right thing to reduce violence. And it's fascinating to me. I've tried to study this a little bit. I've never seen an issue where there's a greater divergence on sort of common sense gun control. I've never seen a greater divergence between where the American public is and where Congress is. 90% of the public believes in common sense background checks. 80% of NRA members, 70% of gun owners all support it, but somehow that basic thing can't happen in Congress. And so what we need is all of you, regardless, again, of politics, where you come from, to hold elected officials accountable for creating a climate in which you can fulfill your true academic and social potential. Some real challenges out there, but we can't wait for somebody else to get this done. We need to do it. We need to do it together. And again, we have the next generation coming up after all of you guys, your younger brothers and sisters, nieces, nephews, young kids on the block. Whatever we can do to create a better situation for them, we have to do it, and do it with a real sense of urgency. Thanks so much. I look forward to your questions and look forward to a great panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Duncan. We continue to be so grateful for your support, and especially in the relaunch of the website, stopbullying.gov, and for offering us concrete steps for every one of us to be able to take in response to this epidemic. So now we're going to move into our panel discussion. Before we begin, I would like to ask all of our distinguished panelists if they would please join us on stage. I would like to introduce you to a really diverse group joining me on stage now. These panelists are more than just experts. They are individuals who have confronted the issue of bullying head-on, finding positive and creative solutions. It is a panel comprised in part of young people just like you, students who have chosen to lead when confronted by the ugly face of bullying, and who join us tonight to share their experiences and perspectives, to help answer your questions, and to provide example and inspiration. First, we are honored to have Secretary Duncan and Brett Burnham back to participate in the dialogue. And Mr. Secretary, I would like to ask you the first question of the evening. What advice do you have for our students who may be the target of bullying?
Well, the first thing is if you're a target, and as hard as it is and as scary as it might seem, you have to speak up. You have to speak up. Your voice has to be heard. Talk to your parents, talk to a teacher, talk to a counselor, talk to your friends. The biggest thing you have to do is cut through the sense of isolation. And if the first person doesn't listen to you, go to the next person. And if that person doesn't listen to you, go to the next person. But do not give up. Find someone who will listen. Find someone who will help you and support you. And the vast majority of adults, again, parents, counselors, teachers, social workers, they want to do the right thing. They don't always know what's going on. But give them a chance to help make you safe. Give them a chance to protect you. Be your own advocate. And do not suffer in silence. I think far too many kids think they're the only one being bullied. Bullying is far more pervasive than anyone realizes. And the biggest message I can say is you are not alone. You have to break through.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your heartfelt advice. We all can tell by your answers and your concern how truly committed you are to this issue. I would also like to introduce to you Alana Garrett and Skyan Shavat. Did I do better, Skyan? No? Please say your last name.
Shayan Sakavit.
Shakavit. I apologize beforehand. The Southern accent sometimes gets in the way. But both Alana and Cheyenne are students affiliated in Not in Our School, an Oakland-based organization with the mission to guide, support, and inspire people and communities to work together to stop hate and build safe, inclusive environments for all. Alana is a college student, a community organizer, and a mentor helping younger children stand up to bullying. Cheyenne is a pre-med student who has spent his high school years leading anti-bullying campaigns, one of which was filmed and shown at the White House. Also with us on the panel to represent the students' perspective is Theron Trujillo, an inventor and entrepreneur who founded True Kids, to raise awareness about bullying after he himself was bullied and lost a friend who had been bullied to suicide. Welcome to all three of you. You have all had incredible success in improving your school environments by confronting bullying. Briefly, could each of you tell us about the role of students in addressing this behavior and why it is so important that students are involved in finding the solution?
One of the reasons why this issue is so important for students is that it directly affects students. It directly affects us when we're in school. And if we do not stop it while we're young, it is not something that just stops. It will continue. As a college student, I have seen college students that actually go through bullying. So it is something that is very, very important. And we as young people have more power than we think. And so we need to be able to come together and tackle this issue.
I guess it's important for students to take a role in this because I guess more often than not, if you're getting bullied, you kind of want to internalize, you don't want to talk about it, you might be ashamed of what's being said to you, and that's probably the worst thing you could do. You know, if you want to talk about it to your friends, family, that'll make it a lot better. I think if you make it more public and be more open about it, it'll be a lot easier to deal with your situations because you're not alone. Going to talk to someone, you'll probably find that they've been bullied too, and you probably think that's not the case, but you know, you'll find strength in people that you have something in common with, and that's probably the best thing you can do for yourself if you're getting bullied.
I think bullying is a great cause to talk about because not only I have been bullied, but I lost a friend because of bullying, but because also millions of others get bullied every single year. Millions of them die every single year due to bullying. And I think everyone should know that those victims should know that they are awesome, they're beautiful, and that they could do anything with their life and to always follow their dreams because you'll never know what's going to happen in the future. But even with those bullies, we got to let them know that we care about them as well and let them know that we love them as well and just to hold them through the process.
Finally, we have Ohio PTA President-elect Lisa Mack here to bring a parent's perspective, and Kelly Ellison, principal at Milford Junior High School here in Cincinnati. These two complete our panel for the evening, and we are so glad to have you both here with us tonight to offer us the advice to parents and teachers that are here in the room with us. As I did with the students, I would like to ask you both a question to help jumpstart our conversation. So to you both, what is the role that adults should play in reducing bullying in school? Do you handle it differently when bullying occurs outside of school or online?
Thank you. I think it's very important that we recognize it regardless of where it's happening or how it's happening. Being in a junior high school, we obviously see bullying quite a bit. Online probably more than in school. So I think it's just as important that we recognize any bullying that's going on for any child within our schools. We use an acronym in my school, ACT. So we want to acknowledge that it's going on, we want to care, and we want to tell somebody. So it's those bystanders and teaching them the role that they play and the importance behind that so that we make sure every kid is safe that we are in contact with, so as adults and as children in the school district.
And from a parent's perspective, I think that you just have to try to be aware of what's going on in your child's life and at school, at home. I would not consider myself to be a helicopter mom, but I'm definitely on the launching pad because I want to make sure that I know what's going on. So as soon as I've got a range of I've got 3 daughters, 23, 21, and I still have a 13-year-old at home. So when she comes home, I question her about what's gone on during the day and find out a lot of times with Instagram and texting and all that kind of thing, a lot of the issues that happen at school continue once they leave school, and so you do have to be mindful that it doesn't just stop once they walk out of the door of the school.
Please help me thank all of our panelists for being part of this critical discussion this evening. At this point in the program, we would like to hear from you. Your questions and concerns will undoubtedly lead us toward game-changing solutions to this mounting problem. Please raise your hand, and one of our volunteers will bring a microphone to you.
Hi.
Along with your question, please state your name. Hi, Danny.
Hi.
Your name and the school that you were affiliated with.
My name is Danny Carver. Good evening. I go to the University of New Mexico. However, I am involved in the national level at PTA. My question is for Mr. Arnie Duncan. What advice would you give student leaders to help them communicate the importance of preventing bullying with their principals?
I think one thing we as adults don't begin to do enough is to listen, and to listen very carefully to young people. And I think so many of the challenges young people face, whether it's academically, socially, you guys have the answers as well. And so where you have student body leaders, student government leaders, whether you have just students in a school, if something's going on, if something doesn't feel right, trust your gut, listen to yourself, and find the principal, find the counselor, find the social worker, find the teacher, find the coach, find some adult at that school who you trust, who will listen to you. And if there's a kid who's hurting, if there's a part of the school that isn't safe, if there's something going on after school in the community that the school needs to know about, please speak up. I think one of the most important things we can do to create better climates in schools is to really empower young people to be part of the solution. And again, I think you guys can do so much to create a climate in which every single child can be successful. We as adults can help, we should be part of it, but to really get where we need to go, we can't get there without student voice and student leadership.
I'm Jocelyn Martin. I go to Russell Middle School, and my question is from Mr. Arnie Duncan. How do you feel about privatization in public schools?
I'm a big proponent of great public schools, and not everyone will agree with me. I love traditional public schools. I love gifted schools, magnet schools, charter schools. I just want every child in this country to have a chance to go to a great public school. So that's my challenge. That's the opportunity. We have amazing, amazing public schools all over the country. We have others that have a long way to go. And I think my job is to celebrate the successes and shine a spotlight on things that are working, but also to challenge the status quo when things aren't working.
Next question. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Lindsay, and I'm an assistant principal in Cicero, Illinois, right next to Chicago. And it's a really low-income community, and a lot of our bullying issues do stem from the lack of support at home. And here we are with so many leaders that are supporting their kids. How do we, what is the government doing to help communities like mine to support our students when there's parents that can't and aren't?
I'd like to start passing some of these questions to other folks. You start and I'll come back. There you go.
I can't speak on behalf of what the government can do, but I can speak on behalf of what the school can do. Me, myself, I grew up in a very low-income neighborhood of Cleveland. I went to Shaw High School in East Cleveland, Ohio, one of the poorest cities in Ohio. One of the things that a few of our teachers did was they kind of took the approach of our first speaker, Mike, of spreading love and spreading self-worth. So one of the things that a teacher did in my English class was she really knew her students. So if one of her students came in who was usually very energetic and talkative and was very quiet, one of the things she would do is say, hey, everybody in the class, if you could say anything to your best friend to cheer him up, what would you say? And then she'll say, okay, now turn him to Casey or whoever it was that was having a bad day. And this was high school. Another thing that she would do was once a week we would have like circles where she had the class come around and everyone had to take a turn getting in the middle, and we had to go around the class and say something positive and give them a compliment. And the compliments cannot be based on material things. They also cannot be words like silly or goofy, because she also explained to us that some of those words are not compliments. They're kind of actually a nice way of insulting people. So those are things that schools can do, that teachers can do in their classroom. They're very small, but it really does make a difference. It really brought our class together, and it really was a way for a lot of kids who were bullied, or a lot of the kids who felt that they really had a bad life at home, they felt someone cared. And then also a lot of times after school, they would go up to the teacher and they would tell her about their problems at home, because she also was able to go above and beyond. I know a lot of times in our public schools, there's not a lot of funding, and I know that the teachers are overworked, they're underpaid, they're not appreciated. I understand that, but sometimes teachers have to take a look in the mirror and realize why they got in the field in the first place, and be able to extend that extra mile and stay an hour if your student needs to come and talk to you, because it can make a world of difference in your classroom, and it can make a world of difference with violence and bullying in schools.
Brett is a school counselor. Would you like to add to that?
I would. You know, my role as a school counselor, I come across those issues quite a bit. I know when I work with students who are struggling, typically there's also some issues in the home that need to be addressed. It's very difficult for a school counselor to get in and make changes in the home. What I try to do is to form partnerships and work collaboratively with community agencies and businesses. It's so great to get them involved. You know, parents who need support at home for health care. We have lots of volunteers where I live. Also, we have mental health professionals that can get involved, come to our school. I offer parenting classes to help educate parents and to support, you know, situations at home. More and more in schools, we're asked to help with some of those home issues. But I think when we work collaboratively with other professionals and form partnerships with public education, that's one way I think we can solve this problem.
Thank you. Aaron?
Okay. Another thing you could probably do, I have my own nonprofit organization called TrueKids.org. And what we do, first of all, I live in Yuba City in California, which we have 17% unemployment rate, which a lot of teens don't have those opportunities and tools to become successful in life. So that's why I try to give those opportunities, as like we're doing an anti-bullying celebrity benefit concert, which holds about 20,000 seats, and we're trying to bring big name celebrities there. And we have 100 youth volunteering to get to work in that. And they're gonna make banners, they're gonna make PSAs, gonna be on radio, TVs, talking all about the concert. We're gonna be helping out, doing everything in the concert, because not only they get the experience and the tools, but they also learn a new skill and a new art, and also get something to do with the community. And then all the money that we raise goes back into the community to implement more bullying programs.
And Secretary Duncan, would you like to round it out from a government perspective?
A couple pieces on this, and I think one thing that's so important that too often I see parents blaming schools and I see schools blaming parents, and we all sort of point fingers at ourselves. Nothing gets solved and kids fall through the cracks, quite frankly. So we in education, I think, have to challenge ourselves to figure out how to reach parents. And parents in low-income communities, the vast majority, aren't wealthy. They're struggling because they had difficult experiences in school. This was not a winning time for them. They struggled in school. It was a failure experience for many. So we have to, as you said earlier so eloquently, we have to go the extra mile. We have to knock on doors. We have to be in homes. We have to open up our schools 12, 13 hours a day, potluck dinners, GED classes, ESL classes, family literacy nights, family counseling. We have to make our schools the centers and the hearts of the community. And I think if we meet parents halfway, the vast majority will come our way, and we can do a better job. Secondly, I try and be very self-critical. One thing, lots I'm proud of that we did first term. One thing I don't think we did enough of was helping to fund strong parental engagement programs. In very tough economic times, and in very tough economic times, we're asking Congress to double our funding there from about $135 million to $280 million. And I don't want to design parent engagement programs. I don't want to fund bake sales and cookie sales. I want you guys to show me where your parent engagement is leading to higher graduation rates and less dropout rates and safer communities. And we want to help take your program to scale. And so we want to be a better partner there. And then the final thing I'll say, I think 99% of parents desperately want to do the right thing. They might not know how, they might need a lot of help, but they want it. There are that small percent of kids where mom is on crack and dad is locked up and there isn't a grandma. And as you said so perfectly earlier, schools can't do it by themselves. Faith-based community, nonprofits, social service agencies, and even in your poorest neighborhoods, if you have 30 kids in that kindergarten class, 30 kids don't need that, but there might be 2 or 3 or 4. Let's not wait till 15 or 16 and they're dropping out. Let's in first grade, kindergarten, identify those 2 or 3 young people and with the community, make a 10, 15-year commitment to stay with them. If we do that, then our kids from the toughest of communities, I promise you, have a chance to be very, very successful.
Robert, you have the next question.
Hello, my name is Chantel Williams. I'm policy counsel at the Detroit Public Schools District in Michigan. And my question is, how can we get the parents to be better aware? First of all, bullying, they think it might just be the hitting or the name calling, but it can go a lot further. It's a lot deeper. Just some horse playing and playing tricks on someone and doing jokes and like you said, a nice way of giving a negative comment. Some parents don't truly know what bullying is. They feel if their child is not being hit, they're not being bullied. Whereas bullying is so much more than that. To whereas I had to explain to my 10-year-old that things were happening to her at her school, that is what you call bullying, because she didn't believe that's what that was, because she wasn't being hit. So I think what ways can we inform the parents more of what those little things that is actually bullying, it really is?
Lisa?
One thing, I'll just give a shameless plug. National PTA has a program called Connect for Respect. And the purpose of it is to create forums in your community, because bullying is an issue that, that affects students, parents, schools, but also the community. And it's a forum to encourage all of those groups to get together and discuss and define what bullying is. We also have resources to talk about what do you do if you think your child is a bully, because that sometimes happens, even if you want to be in denial. What you should know, a lot of resources. We've also partnered National PTA with StopBullying.gov, which gives a lot of resources as well. So just trying to go to, you can find those resources on our PTA.org website, but it gives you an idea of how to build that forum, how to build that network to start discussing those issues.
From a school standpoint, there are several things you can do. We always have meetings to bring in parents, and we have specific topics. We meet just about bullying in general. We talk about cyberbullying. I will bring in the local police departments to share the law side of things. So it's important that you have those meetings and you reach out to parents. I also have students do videos once a week, and they talk about bullying, and they're posted on Facebook page, so parents have access to them, and there are truths about bullying, and it may even have a story about a kid that's been bullied. So we just try and be as transparent as possible and open to the community. I think the most difficult piece is when parents don't get involved until it happens to their child or they're in the situation. So just being upfront and honest and open is most important, I believe, in our communities.
And Skyon, would you wrap this one up for us?
Yeah, as far as trying to get teachers involved in bullying prevention and, really understanding how destructive it can be, I know that, when I was a kid and I was getting bullied, I didn't want to talk about it to mom and dad. I don't know why. Maybe it was just embarrassed. Maybe it was some quality of mind that I had some kind of defect that people were, bullying me about. But it was easier to talk about it with, your friends, because they might be going through the same thing. And if you are a parent, I do urge you to ask your kids, if not necessarily if they're getting bullied, but if they talk about any of their friends getting bullied. Because then, I guess, from a parent, you're more of an authoritative figure. They might listen to you a little more. I know that I never wanted to talk to my mom about it, but one day I came home and I was a really happy kid, but I kind of came home with a glum look, and she asked me, what was wrong, and right then and there it was just so easy to just let it all out, because she asked me and she showed that she cared. I told her what happened, and it was actually like the neighbor kid bullying me, and as soon as she heard, she went over there, gave that mom a pretty good earful, and that was that. Never had to hear from it again, just because mom wanted to step in. So, just give your child that space to vent a little. They just need a little push so they can, open up to you, because more often than not, even if they look happy, there might be something under the surface.
Robert, do you have another questioner? Oh, Mary Pat?
Secretary Duncan, first of all, thank you for everything you do for our children. Your relentlessness, your perseverance is really inspiring to all of us, so thank you for everything you do. I wanted to take you up on a challenge you just offered. This is not what I was going to ask, but since you brought it up, we were involved in starting Zumba Fitness, and we figured some things out about how to unleash the joy of things. So we're starting to work on the joy of learning in out-of-school settings. Since kids only spend about 20% of their time in school, out-of-school settings are very important. I would like to find a way to interact with some of your team to see if we can be one of those groups that can help make a difference in a kid's life.
Happy to take you up on that, and we can follow up. But again, whether it's in a church, whether it's in a social service agency, nonprofit, but again, I keep saying we have 100,000 schools in our country, rich, poor, black, white, Latino, doesn't matter. 100,000 schools, they all have classrooms, they all have gyms, they have libraries, they have computer labs, they have pools. They're great physical resources. They don't belong to me or to the principal, they belong to the community. And the more we start to co-locate services, everyone's struggling financially, keep challenging nonprofits, don't put your money into bricks and mortar, put your money into tutoring and academic enrichment. Let's open up our schools and partner, have the school run the school 9 to 3, have the community run the school 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I think if we do that, where families are learning together and schools are the hearts of the neighborhood, I think those kids are going to do pretty well.
Thank you. Robert? Hi, Bren.
Hi, how are you, Betsy? Thank you so much for your years of hard work at the PTA and all of you for coming. I'm Brenda Martin out of Kentucky. I'm one of the official bloggers for the convention. So I just want to ask a question, but I want to say if you want to read more about it, you can go to debateandswitch.wordpress.com, or you could join in on some of our Twitter chats at #PTA2013. My question is not as poignant as my daughter Jocelyn's. I would like to add on to her question and ask, do you think that there is a difference in the bullying that exists and how it's handled in the public schools or the private sector or the charter schools? And then I have another part of a question. I want to find out how you feel about some of the legislation that is going forth to try to make it more of a crime for some of the bullying that's taking place. And if you've seen some in some states that's effective, how do you feel about it? If not, what do you suggest?
Well, let's start out with the first half of that question and go with Brett and with Kelly from a school perspective, and then we'll go to the Secretary for the legislative perspective. Will that work? Okay.
Well, I'll just start out by saying this is my personal opinion. I don't think bullying and how we address it should be any different in any school, regardless of the setting. We know that bullying is pervasive in all social economic areas. It's pervasive around the world. It's a worldwide phenomenon. And so I think we still need to approach the situation the same regardless of the school. If I can kind of share a little bit of what I believe, something that I'm proud of in my school district, we have K through 12 comprehensive school-wide bully prevention programs. The students in my school district are getting the same message from preschool to 12th grade. We speak a common language when it comes to how we deal with these things. I believe that it starts with administrative support. You've got to have the administration setting the tone and the expectations. I also believe in the use of data, looking at data to identify your problems, to identify chronic victims and bullies, areas where you're having a problem. That data kind of helps drive this. I also believe that one of the most important things is education and awareness, and that's for all stakeholders. Student education and awareness, as we talked about a few minutes ago, parent education and awareness, and every staff member in a school should receive some kind of training. This is something I do as well. Bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, everybody needs to be educated on these issues. From there, I really believe that students need certain critical social skills. We ask them to do certain things and have the right attitudes, but we've got to give them the knowledge and the skills to be able to do what we're asking them. I also believe that we have to have intervention for both chronic bullies and victims. Sometimes there's need for mental health. Sometimes we just need supports, opportunities for positive leadership, things like that. And I believe that we have to have an ongoing effort. I just think if we take these kinds of strategies and put them into any kind of a school setting, whether they're public, private, or whatever, these are the kind of things that I think kids and students need.
Kelly, as a principal, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, Brent pretty much said it all. I mean, he did. It's important. We have a comprehensive program in our district, so the kids know the language when they come to me, and they come to me from 6 different buildings, so it's very important that we're all on the same page. So just once again, kind of knowing what the program is. We have class meetings weekly, so the kids are in the same groups. There are topics around anti-bullying, and truly having an anti-bullying committee in each building is extremely important, built with parents, students, teachers, and administration, so that everyone is on the same page. I would encourage as well. But bullying should be treated, no matter what venue it's in, should be treated the same manner, and there might have to be a little more effort, but it's all about the culture and climate in your building and building that trust amongst everyone.
And sadly, we are, believe it or not, almost out of time, but I'd like the Secretary to answer the second half of the question, if you'd mind, Mr. Secretary.
There has been some real progress in terms of states enacting laws and policies. I think about 41 states have laws on the books. And let me be clear, that is important, it is necessary, but I want to say I think that's insufficient. And so it's great to have the legal basis there, but culture in schools is so critically important. And if we had more educators like Brent, like Lisa, more students like the young people here, then this problem would literally would go away. But we still, frankly, have too many schools where we don't have that kind of adult or student leadership. And you can have the best laws on the books, but that doesn't change what's going on for that 5-year-old or that 10-year-old or that 15-year-old in school. And if you guys haven't seen, there's a movie, Bully, a documentary, Bully. If you haven't seen it, it's extraordinarily powerful. It is painful. And Betsy knows me, I always try and be very honest. What you see and I give the school system tremendous credit for opening their doors, which is, it takes a huge amount of courage to do. But you saw adults who were educators who cared about kids doing some things that upon reflection would break your heart, and not stepping up and not being a voice and not intervening. So yes, we need laws, but we need every adult and we need young people themselves stepping up and again building that culture of tolerance and respect.
This part of the program always goes so fast, but I want to thank each of you for your thoughtful questions, for your ideas and your recommendations as we went through this time. It is these types of forums, like the one tonight, that really help school communities truly learn how bullying is affecting our students. As Lisa mentioned, in March of 2011, National PTA did indeed develop a set of resources to help schools have these types of conversations with parents and students and to develop solutions that they can implement collaboratively together. If you would like to bring Connect for Respect to model to your school community, please visit pta.org/bullying to access the free resources to make this happen. Please also visit stopbullying.gov for an excellent set of resources that have informed the PTA toolkit that you can find on the PTA website. At this time, I would like to ask Secretary Duncan if he would have any additional remarks as we begin to close out the evening. Mr. Secretary?
Final word?
Yeah.
I'll pass.
You'll pass?
She's got my final word for me.
Alana, you want to give our final word?
Yeah, it was just kind of about the whole legal situation with, in regards to bullying. I understand that there is good to have laws in place, but I think that we need to be careful when you bring in the legal system, because at the end of the day, whether it's the bully or the victim, these are still children, and these are not criminals. And a lot of times when you bring in that legal issues and you have laws, then you bring in a connotation and labels and stigmas on children as far as them being criminals. What happened to the old saying of hurt people hurt people? A lot of the bullies themselves, they're not horrible people. They have issues themselves, just like the counselor over here was just saying. Some of them might need mental health services. So we also need to be mindful of getting the law enforcement involved, and that can also be very counterproductive. And in a lot of low-income neighborhoods where there are already a lot of crime and there are already a lot of people and young people going to jail, you wouldn't want to bring that in. Instead, you want to spread love and positivity and help people increase their self-esteem.
Alana, I think that was the perfect way to wrap it up. Please help me in thanking all of our panelists. Before we say goodnight, tonight's program would not have been possible without the incredible support and partnership of Discovery Education. This is the second in a series of 4 town halls focused on bullying that we are co-hosting with the Discovery Education, looking at preventing bullying and the intervention, as well as mental health assistance with students, parents, educators, and other community members across this country. I would like to introduce Vice President Matt Munjan from Discovery Education, who is here with us tonight to please provide our closing remarks. Matt.
No more handouts for schools. Instead, waves of new customers seeking out your business, intentionally making new purchases locally, knowing a portion benefits their school. That's Boosterville. Sell local, buy local, boost local. Boosterville.